Secretary. I'm just going to ask one question and then may interject as we go along. Is it, from your perspective, having been both at the White House and now at the State Department in an important role, is it your observation that the only way for us to be successful in our foreign policy endeavors and for the Secretary of State to be successful is for there to be a close relationship between the White House and the Secretary of State and the knowledge that the White House will back up the initiatives that the Secretary of State endeavors to achieve?
I think, Mr. Chairman, in any administration, you certainly want a close relationship among the agencies of the executive branch.
We've had, I know, numbers of proposals from the State Department, including the no-fly zone in the northwest triangle of Aleppo and the air exclusion zone along the Turkish-Syrian border that the Turks were supportive of. Why is it that in that case, in the case right now where Secretary Kerry is out there on a tether, you just mentioned that we're going to cut off bilateral negotiations on Syria. I mean, I just have a feeling that's just not much of a price to pay from Russia's standpoint. So there's been discussions of Plan B. Secretary Kerry talked to several of us in Munich in February about the cessation discussions, and there was going to be a Plan B if they failed. I've never seen signs of a Plan B. I know Russia doesn't believe there's a Plan B. Assad doesn't believe there's a Plan B. Iran doesn't believe there's a Plan B. So when I say that, when I refer to a sympathetic figure, how can a Secretary of State have any chance of success in ending the murder, the torture, the rape, the bombing of innocent people, the killing of young people? How does a Secretary of State have any chance of success when the White House is unwilling at any level to have a backup to what he's doing if diplomacy fails?
Mr. Chairman, on all of these issues, including Syria, we work through a very deliberative process involving all of the agencies relevant to the issue at the NSC, with the State Department, with the Pentagon, with the intelligence agencies, et cetera. And we try to work through these things deliberately and make the best possible assessment of the best way to advance our objectives and our interests and to evaluate both the benefits and risks of any course of action. And that's what we've done in this case. And the policy that emerges is the product of these deliberations that the Secretary of State is very much fully a part of. In the case of Syria, I think first it's useful for a second just to step back and ask ourselves this question. How do civil wars typically end? And we know from history and experience that they end in 1 in 3 ways.
I don't want a history lesson. I'd like to understand what Plan B is. The mysterious Plan B that has been referred to since February, the mysterious Plan B that was supposed to be leverage to get Russia to quit killing innocent people, to get Assad to quit killing innocent people. Just explain to us the elements of Plan B.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. In the first instance, Plan B is the consequence of the failure as a result of Russia's actions of Plan A, in that what is likely to happen now, if the agreement cannot be followed through on and Russia reneges totally on its commitments,
which it has.
Which it appears to have done, this is going, of course, to be bad for everyone, but it's going to be bad first and foremost.
I want to hear about Plan B.
Well,
I understand all the context here.
I think, sir, this is important because Russia has a profound incentive in trying to make this work. It can't win in Syria. It can only prevent Assad from losing. If this now gets to the point where the civil war actually accelerates, all of the outside patrons are going to throw in more and more weaponry against Russia. Russia will be left propping up Assad in an ever smaller piece of Syria.
All of us understand that. What is Plan B?
So
give me the elements of Plan B.
So two things. Again, the consequences, I think, to Russia as well as to the regime will begin to be felt as a result of Plan A not being implemented because of Russia's actions. Second, as I indicated, the President has asked all of the agencies to put forward options, some familiar, some new, that we are very actively reviewing. When we are able to work through these in the days ahead, we'll have an opportunity to come back and talk about them in detail, but we're in the process of doing that.
Okay, so let me just say what we already know. There is no Plan B. And when I refer to Secretary Kerry as a sympathetic figure, I say that because he gets up every day. Some say he should resign over lack of support, or at least threaten to. But there's no support. It's impossible to be successful in negotiating an agreement with someone if there's no consequences. In this case, the consequences that you're laying out is that Russia will fully determine the future of Syria.
I think Russia is going to bear very significant consequences for the failure of this effort as a result of this action.
That hasn't been the case, and I know that's what the President said when they came in and stepped into the vacuum a year ago. So look, I rest my case. Diplomacy without any plan of failure is something that cannot be successful, and I, again, based on my experiences this weekend with an administration who's unwilling to even sit down and talk about a solution with the people who are involved because they think this is bad for our country, but unwilling to sit down and talk about a possible option, just leads me to believe that we will continue to have non-success in Syria, non-success in other areas. And again, all of us have tremendous sadness over the fact that our country has idly sat by after encouraging the people of Syria. If you remember, Ambassador Ford was cheering these people on. Cheering these people on. We made commitments to the opposition, which General Idris, I remember meeting with him in Turkey. We couldn't even get him the trucks that we committed to. So it's a statement without a plan. It's a statement of red lines without follow-up. And again, I fear that more bad results are going to occur. With that, I'll turn it to Senator Menendez.